to the show.
Are we reaching? No, I was like, what? I was about to ask, what's that song?
It's Ballin'. That's off of Mustard's album.
Okay. But what's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Infusion Breakdown Show. It's your boy Joshua Freeman. To my left, I got Mr. Bryan Carey. To my right, I got Mr. Desmond Tillman. Hope you guys are doing well today. You know what I'm gonna say. So the topic we have for today. Remember, we do have timestamps in the description below. Remember, comment below also. But go down to the timestamps. Click on what you want to watch and watch it. Okay. But the question we do have today on the docket is, what will finally break the internet, though? What do you guys think? Anything? Finally break the internet. Remember, comment below. Let us know. But break the internet as in, I want you to kind of explain the question a little bit. Break the internet as in what?
Make it obsolete or elsewise change the way we currently perceive it. It seems to be like our go-to for everything. So, for example, prior to the internet, it was much harder to find one solid, consolidated resource where you could find your information. And this is what we relied on. So what could be the next stage or what's going to prompt that? Or possibly what could revolutionize it in the way that we have to look for other options? Well, I guess revolutionize. Is that always positive?
Revolution?
Is a revolution always positive?
What do you think?
I don't think so.
You don't think so? No, I don't think so either, really.
You don't think a revolution is always positive?
Is always positive. No, I think it just depends.
Because the Bolshevik Revolution in the Soviet Union wasn't positive.
What do you think?
It depends. Huh. I think revolutions just change. It's all about what actually goes down. But anyhow, so yeah. I think revolution is sometimes confused with revolt, maybe. Sure. So maybe the Bolsheviks should have been a revolt rather than a revolution. Yeah. So revolution, I guess, should be positive. Revolution is, what is it?
Because I was looking at
breaking away.
I was about to ask you that. What is your definition of revolution? Because I was looking at revolution as a revolt.
The American Revolution. Let's get a solid consensus. Because I mean, if you're gonna say that, then yeah. And then you think about tech innovations, like the iPhone revolutionized the way we do a lot of things. Like when they unveil products, like it's easy for them to say revolutionize. Like even so, in wrestling, the women's revolution, that's when they started to book the women's wrestlers differently and give them more screen time and allow them to tell more compelling narratives and develop into more believable characters, or just they treated them on a more equal playing field as they do with the male wrestlers. So that's a revolution. So I guess a revolution is all about the connotation that you carry with it. Yeah, it said like turn of like a new cycle, rotation, something on that matter. So it could be both good and bad, because the first definition was like a forcible overthrow of government. And American Revolution or Bolshevik Revolution, both of them actually. Yeah. It's both good and bad. Okay, yeah. So what's gonna break the internet?
I think you say you want to go last?
I'm just here to listen.
You just here to
I'm a listener today. I'm gonna subscribe. Leave my comment in the comment section below.
Comment section.
I appreciate it. Check them timestamps out.
I don't think the internet will ever become like broken or really obsolete, because I feel we're so interdependent on the internet. I mean, just like what you were saying, like we used to, I don't know, I'm pretty sure in high school or even in middle school, you used to come home from school and then you used to get on MySpace if you had a MySpace. You didn't use, nowadays you can get on you don't get on MySpace, or not MySpace, Facebook or Twitter or Instagram while you're in class. So we just become so interdependent on internet. So I don't really see that actually breaking down or becoming obsolete or just unusable. Like, of course, there would be some type of substitute, but I don't know what that substitute would be, as far as like a different platform as far as the internet, or something to take our minds completely off of it altogether. I don't know what that would actually be, but since we're so interdependent on the internet, I don't feel it can really become broken or obsolete anyway.
My counterpoint, the TV, cable television. Prior to that, the radio. So the successor of the radio, I sound funny in the headset. Yeah. Anyhow, the successor of the radio was the TV. The successor of the TV was the internet. So you see now through more people are streaming content via Netflix or Hulu or any number of these streaming services as opposed to they do TV. Like I spend more time on YouTube than I do on TV. I might watch TV maybe once, twice a week, barely, and I'm paying for it. So if you look at just the path that cable providers have gone down, for example, like, so they offer all these packages. You have to pay more for HBO and different sports packages to get games broadcasted to your TV. And so I look at a lot of that is happening, believe it or not, with internet services, so like streaming. So you look at Netflix. Netflix has lost a lot of its content in the past few years, like Marvel, DC, a lot of Disney stuff. Like I was trying to watch Peter Pan one day. Don't ask me why, but I was trying to watch Peter Pan on Netflix, couldn't find it. It's not on there. A lot of like their classic movies, I believe, like if you look for Snow White, probably not there. And then like I said, like Marvel and DC have removed their content. They have their own streaming services. So when you look at all these different entities creating their own platforms, and you have to pay additional money to get their content that used to be consolidated into one, then it becomes more convoluted, and that's one thing that turns me off about TV. And I think that is one downside to what's going on with streaming services currently. So you can even look at the music industry too. So like Jay-Z's music, he's just recently allowed it to be available on Google Play, but you can't. So if you're looking on Instagram, I actually noticed this earlier because I was promoting for last week's video. I went to put a Jay-Z song in my IG story, right? While we had the ad with the Jay-Z on it, and you can't get his music to play, but you can get it through Google Play. It's like, and also you can't find any Jay-Z songs, with the exception of a few collaborations. You can't find any of that content on YouTube. So he's very exclusive about where his content is allowed, and a lot of entities are taking that approach. And so if you look at, like, you may pay, like, how much do you pay for your internet? Let's say internet and cable costs.
So like $40, let's say.
Sure. So you're paying that, right? Mm-hmm. And then so you want to watch some of Marvel's streaming service. You want to watch Doctor Strange. So that's an additional, how much isn't that a month?
Let's say Marvel's, let's say it's like $9.99, $10.
Perfect, $9.99. Okay, let's say you want to watch something from DC streaming service. That's additional $9.99.
That's $10.
So yeah, you stacking up. So that's increasingly problematic, and I see that is going to be the catalyst to prompt us to change the way that we consume our internet content and possibly go on to the next thing. I don't know quite what that would be. Like back before the TV, people didn't know what was going to take place on the radio. So we're kind of in that dilemma now, I feel.
Okay. What's up?
I hear you. But I understand. But I think at the same time, though, like, same way you can have subscriptions to all these services, these like whatever you want to call them, like these entities are also giving you the option to like watch what you subscribe to on the internet. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of like just another like add-on or feature to benefit, I think, to benefit the internet. Like, yeah, you have these apps on your phone, yeah, you have apps on your laptop, but then you can also access it, via the web or whatever it may be. The one thing that I see potentially like breaking the internet is nothing as far as consumership, but it's censorship. Like, if you look at what I mean by that is the internet is like the one thing that brings every civilization together. By civilization, I mean like country. You can speak to somebody in Japan, you can speak to somebody in Russia, you can speak to somebody in any of the European nations, South America, Africa. When you begin to put restrictions on things of that nature to what you can access, who you can talk to, what content you can access in certain countries, it loses its luster, it loses its that's the appeal of the internet. Because you have so much access. Yeah. Like that's what everyone goes to when you talk about the internet. Oh, you can do anything at the press of a button.
Exactly. So competition really can't, in my eyes, destroy the internet, because it's only going to make it better, because you still have to have the internet and ways to access that stuff. Like I know with Hulu, I can't make any changes to my account through the app. I have to go onto hulu.com to change anything as far as devices on the account, what my subscription thing is, like the card on file. Like there's some apps that still require you to log on via web.
So I don't necessarily see anything like that being what breaks the internet. The only thing I could see is what essentially ruins anything, any good thing or anything that has longevity, and that's government interference. That's the only thing I could possibly think of, because I think when you get government interference, if you're restricting access to things, then you're also opening up the door to like government approved content, things of that nature.
Those two things, excuse me, I'm sorry.
No, you go ahead.
Those two things are intertwined. So if you look back at the net neutrality bills and that whole discussion, so with net neutrality, they were thinking about like, so if you break up the content of the internet, and let's say people own these different parts, so you're paying more to access different sections of the internet, then you're more likely to have things imposed on you. So that's part. It's like censorship and the privatization of the internet, they're one and the same. So I thought about that, but I saw that the privatization is the more to the forefront, because that's where the censorship comes into play.
So you're saying privatization of the internet is what could break it?
Mm-hmm. I mean, censorship is an inevitable part of it.
But could you say that privatization, in a sense, it could essentially? You're saying like they're one of the same, privatization and censorship.
The censorship is so if you would look at a hierarchy, right?
Yeah.
Like it would be the privatization, and then under that, censorship is a method by which the privatization is able to prosper or
I get you.
Or to be carried out.
Be in effect.
Yeah. It's a method.
Okay. I agree, though. That was actually one of my first points. I was like, yeah. Like, I was like, government interference is definitely could ruin the internet, but I just try to stay away from that. Try to go like.
But it's the reality. I feel like it's like the reality, though.
Yeah, and I actually started thinking of like net neutrality and everything like that. But actually, I'm trying to understand exactly what do you mean as far as the streaming services? And I understand what you mean as far as the radio, and then the TV precedes the radio and everything like that. But what do you mean the streaming service? How would that break are you saying it will break the internet?
I'm saying if that same principle, the very same principles that apply to our streaming service, if they continue to be applied to other platforms, so let's say like search engines, and then you have your music, and then you have everything, and then so you might be paying your $40 for your internet, but you're paying, okay, let's say you have to have basic internet access, which is your $40, then $9.99 for this, $9.99 for this, $9.99 for that. That's when it becomes problematic. And then, of course, under those services, there goes censorship, because they're in competition. One service is not going to allow you to see content from another provider.
Yeah. Well, you didn't say censorship.
I could understand his side a little bit more as well, because how do I want to say this? I can understand it in a sense to where, if you think back to when we were kids, like just like you were saying, when we would come home and we would hop on the computer, and how we could search just about anything, and by searching one thing, you open up the possibility of searching multiple things. Whereas you find everything in house in the app, to where you don't even have to get on the internet anymore. You essentially, minimize your footprint on the World Wide Web. And if you think about how a lot of like
minimize your footprint by getting on an app.
Yeah. And I say that because, like I just said, like if you get on YouTube and you search something, you're going to end up watching multiple videos that probably weren't even associated with the first thing that you search for. Just like when you're
Key and Peele video, but keep going.
Just like even when it's like an assignment, like you might start off on Wikipedia, but then you might end up on history.com or any of the educational websites, like things of that nature. Whereas now, if you're like finding everything in one house, one unit, it minimizes that footprint. Like you're less likely to have to search through multiple domains to find what you're looking for. You can find everything you need just in one spot. And what I was gonna say is, think about how a lot of these websites make their money through ads. If you don't have the footprint, who's going to want to pay that money to have their ad displayed to keep you up, essentially keep you paying your employees? Like Google is always going to be the top search engine for me. Like if you have Google Chrome, it's always going to be
synonymous.
Exactly. But just think if it gets to the point to where people have no need to even go onto Google, or people are turned away from even accessing Google, like turned away in a sense of like subscription services. Like you have to pay to Google to utilize their search engine. Like one thing I cannot remember. I think it was in my con law class, and I want to say that we actually looked at a contract for Google, and Google essentially said that in any attempt to sue them, your reward would be what you essentially pay to utilize the service. Mm-hmm. You don't pay anything to utilize the service, so therefore there's nothing to give you. So just imagine, like, when it comes to the point to where you're trying to privatize things and lawsuits do come into effect, then consumers are actually owed something, because they're essentially, like you said, there's a privatization of funds, goods somehow. And then when you lead into that fallout of, paying up money, it could potentially collapse the system as you know it. And if people get dependent on a system that may not be able to withstand the times, because you do have people that can't take advantage of it, and you attempt to go back to what was, is it really going to be something that you want to go back to because you were given access to something that was so much more easier? Mm-hmm. So that was kind of like expanding off of what he said without, taking his entire, viewpoint and
trying to conclusion. Yeah. But see, that makes me question. So how do you differentiate want from need? So you said people, through using these consolidated services, there's not a need for you to go everywhere else. Yeah. But I think more so it's a want thing, because if we go back to our discussion about media and accountability, so if you're looking at one specific outlet, you have the same paradigm where you're exposed to those viewpoints and opinions, but there's still, I guess, I would absolutely say there's a need for you to expand your paradigm and look at other things so you can actually get facts.
When it comes to tangible items, do you think a want and a need are the same thing?
Tangible items or intangible?
Tangible. Because, streaming services are a tangible item.
They aren't.
How are they not? They're tangible in the sense of you can, download it, you purchase it.
No, I'm saying that, when in regards to a tangible item, wants and needs are not synonymous. You don't need Facebook. You want it. You might not even want it. I don't know.
But don't you think that... I think this kind of could tie into, the free will thing.
Everything's
to where you get... Everything's free will?
Here we go.
Everything.
Here we go.
I think that opens up a black box away from the internet.
It does.
It does.
It definitely does. Stay tuned for the next time.
Let's go back to our initial point. So wants and needs. So what was...
I was saying that, don't you think that when it comes to wants and needs, that kind of... When it comes to tangible items, they're kind of like the same thing. Like something you may feel that you need could be something that you want, and something that you want could potentially be something that you need.
There may be some overlap, but they aren't synonymous.
I'll take overlap. Yeah, you're not going to hardball me like my man over here, the mellow stand.
Let's see, just for the sole fact of how I feel like if you're dependent on one source where that's where you get your information from, and you don't take the time to look at other things to verify and I guess get a more holistic view, I think that's damaging within itself. And by you having those privatization, those private entities, all competing services. So let's say you might have, that's exactly, it's like you start playing politics with content. That's exactly what it is. So let's say I have a streaming service, and you have a streaming service. You have a streaming service. You're a third party, but your streaming service is smaller. So I have my streaming service, and I want to pump Republican propaganda at you, and you just happen to be some really good friends with some Democrats, so you're pumping your Democratic propaganda. So that's the same thing that we see going on with news outlets.
My only not even misunderstanding. It's not a misunderstanding, but it's like a disagreement. Whereas you said privatization before censorship, whereas I think privatization might not lead to a demise. Like if it's handled properly, then it will flourish. Whereas censorship, with how much people are into their my rights thing, I feel like it is a quicker demise. Like people don't like their stuff being infringed upon. Whereas, with the privatization of stuff, it's not necessarily an infringement if it's beneficial in its time. From day one, censorship is going to be bad. Privatization may not be bad until 50, 60, 70 years from now. And even then, it might not even be bad. So we established that one does damage immediately, whereas other one could potentially take decades to centuries to rear its head. And even then, if it does rear its head, is the fallout bad? Like, think about how many like terror groups and all of this, converse on the dark web, and then you throw censorship into the play. That's essentially means to expedite the plans of your attack. And if you're taking things off, if you're bringing censorship into play, then you're also bringing in the fact that it's harder to track these conversations. Like, you can have these conversations all you want to on the web, because there's an understanding that they may or may not be watching, and they may or may not be able to narrow everything down based off of code words. Whereas if you have everything censored and people are now having these conversations in person, then you need to have a lot more people in the field that can survey or have surveillance for these things. And it's not necessarily easier to track people on foot than it is to track people where you can just...
It's easier to fight the devil you know than the one you don't.
Exactly.
And I think you make a very fair point with that. And censorship is more immediately problematic, but I still like to think that it's a secondary cause. For example, like why is the censorship being carried out? Who's doing it?
Well, I was saying censorship in like government form.
Yeah.
Like,
well,
so the government's doing.
Yeah, like think about when you're at work. Well, I don't know if you have this issue at work.
Facebook is the... Hold on, not to...
Yeah, no, go ahead.
For a second. So if Facebook owns it, Facebook is the one doing the regulations. There aren't laws dictating Facebook actions. So that's what I'm getting at by the privatization.
Yeah,
gotcha. Okay. So Facebook is essentially, if you want to look at it and if you want to compare laws and the government, Facebook, I see it as synonymous with its own country, because it behaves in the same way. It makes its own rules, and by using their platform, you agree to abide by those laws, which is your user terms of agreement. Gotcha. So what were you saying?
Shit, so what I was just gonna say was, like, for his example, like what he literally just broke down what I was about to say. Oh, okay. To whereas like you get censorship and privatization. Good God, we done said it so many times.
Are you saying censorship comes first?
If it's government induced, yes. But if it's privatization.
We just need to take a clip of you saying it.
Hey, chill out.
And paste it.
They already got it. But if it's induced through like Netflix or Disney or things like that, it's going to take time. Like, because you're paying for a service, that doesn't necessarily mean that Disney needs to abide by your wants or your needs. They're still going to produce content or release content as they best see fitting to the amount of money that they're putting in to the streaming service that you're paying for. Like, yeah, for viewership, it would behoove them to adhere to your wants or needs, but they still have the full capacity as an entity to censor what they want based off of what the contract says.
And do you don't agree? You think it comes first, privatization, or second? Because he's saying censorship comes first. It's not privatization.
My stance is the same.
Okay.
I understand the underlying issue.
I think, like, for us, it's a contingency based. Oh, okay. Like, if it's censorship through government, it could be number one. But if it's censorship through privatization, then it's
like a chicken or the egg type thing. It's just dependency.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you guys feel, because you talked about Facebook, so you guys feel like interference from like foreign powers? So if, say, for instance, Russia starts interfering with more Facebook activities from Americans and stuff like that, do you feel it could break the internet? What were you saying?
I don't even know if it's a pertinent point, but know what I was going to say, not your question.
Yeah, I was like...
But I don't think that the influence was as great as what we think it is. Because if you think about all these different organizations and companies and industries that already have influence in our domestic policies, and that's more problematic than anything.
You don't think the Russian thing was as influential? Is that what you're saying?
I don't think, if you look across like the span of history, I don't think it was that impactful if you compare it side by side to what businesses do and corporations.
Okay. But just that alone, though, do you guys feel that would be enough to like break the internet per se and make it unusable? Like, all right, I'm getting sick of these Russians. They keep coming.
No, because if you look at the internet itself, so
people are still going to believe what they want to believe.
Warfare is taking place on the internet right now.
Like Modern Warfare, the game?
No. Nah, so I'm saying like cybersecurity attacks. So there's a website. So one of my professors, he showed us this one day in class, and it's a website you can go to, and I actually try to find it for you guys. I can't think of the name of it, but he showed us in class. There's a map, and it shows you the entire globe, and it shows you cyber attacks, and like it show you the path, the destination. It'll show you the ones that are rejected, the ones that passed, and it's just like constant like lines just shooting across the screen. Like it's overwhelming just the amount of cybersecurity effects, attacks that are taking place like every second. And that's how it's playing out. So what that comes with, if you're under attack, right, and you can't avert yourself from that, like the attacks are going to come, what do? You bolster your defenses. You also go in the offensive. So I don't think that would be an issue, because if you have people interfering, and so let's say you have a database, right? Let's break it down to simple computer terms and remove ourselves away from the political ideologies and stuff like that. So you have a database, and your data it's sensitive, right? So you have Desmond who has access to it, or he's seeking to gain access to it. So what do? Put up a firewall, or you encrypt it, or you do something. You put some defensive measures up, and you might want to get some intel on him. So you might go in the offensive. So it just comes with it's the same as not coversion evolution. It's same as coevolution. How two species they evolve independently. The prey becomes more defensively. They develop a harder shell to protect themselves against the predator that's faster, and it's constantly trying to like one up each other. You evolve or get left behind.
Oh, okay, I got you. But anything else you interject, Des?
I was gonna say that when he brings up cyber warfare, I think another potential catalyst to breaking the internet could be cyber warfare on a scale that involves two nations, towards like deliberate attacks on political homes, rather than China hacking in and like shutting Sony down or something like that. Mm-hmm. Like where it gets to a point where like cities, like prominent cities, like your New Yorks,
shutting down power grids,
things of that nature. Oh, okay. Then it brings like a fear of, essentially it brings back the fear of what you don't know, almost. Like you kind of get scared, like, dang, do I even want to? Like you telling me they can shut down the whole power grid? Like, are they getting this stuff from my IP address? Like how? Like you tell me if they can track me where I'm at, they can do things of that nature. It becomes fear. It almost becomes like if I'm not gonna lie, if I were in a situation to where, countries do have I'm gonna say that they do have the ability to shut down entire power grids. They just haven't got to that point.
They just doing it. They know better. It's mutually assured destruction.
Things of that nature.
Because if you do it to somebody else, of course you're going to be the next one.
Exactly.
Say, well, you just did it to XYZ nation. Mm-hmm. Who's to say we aren't going to be next? Let's retaliate and take you out the equation right now.
Like if things of that nature were to come up, I think it increases the desire for like civilians and themselves to like go off the grid, like not have like much of a cyber footprint, things of that nature. Go back to like the Stone Age of everything in hand, paying by cash. Mm-hmm. Talking through letters. And that's just hypothesizing, but it's not something like, I don't think you can rule anything out as far as what could happen based off of extremes. People do weird things when they're in stressful situations.
Yeah, that's good. Anything else you have to say about this topic?
No.
About the internet and how it break. What do you guys think, though? How would the internet finally break? What do you guys think? Do you guys agree with Desmond? Do you use more censorship? Do you guys agree with Bryan? More privatization?
Also, what would make you stop using the internet?
Yeah. Focus on yourself.
Don't lie.
You said don't lie.
Yeah, going on a little sabbatical or a hiatus from using the internet to focus on yourself isn't necessarily not using the internet, unless you like truly implement it into your everyday life. Like, nope, I'm not doing that. I'm gonna get my source from the newspaper or things of that nature. Like truly like, you could say revolutionizing your your way of living, how you obtain information, how you communicate.
That's a good revolutionizing your way of living. Yeah, that's good.
You like how I did that,
huh? But you have an album of the week for us?
Yeah, which one of Nipsey's albums you gonna play?
We ain't doing no Nipsey over here, man. Actually, my phone died, so what album was Nipsey albums? I don't know if I got an album.
It came out in 2000.
Nah, I don't got an album, but what I'll do is I got I've been on Netflix a lot because we've been going through training at work, so you gotta pass time. And I think the one
television series of the week.
Yeah, a little series, you can call it docu-series, television series, whatever you want to call it, but it's on Netflix and it's called Unsolved, and it kind of, you know, gives a view of the Biggie and Tupac murders through the federal task force that carried out the investigation. So I think it's really interesting. It kind of lets you
all you youngins who don't
get a
know
different view.
Who don't know who Tupac and Biggie is, look them up. They're good people. Look them up. But yeah.
Young Thug said he was the new Tupac.
I feel like a lot of rappers say that.
Go ahead, disconnect this.
A lot of rappers said disconnect.
You know, but you're not wrong about that.
No, shit, a lot of people say that. Yeah. I feel like Lil Wayne said that too.
Yeah, Snoop actually came out and said that he felt that Nipsey embodied the spirit of Tupac. And I was thinking to myself, like, if Nipsey was 34, that means he was born in like 84? Yeah.
Yeah.
80 or 33, so 85, like, he was alive during the Tupac thing. So it kind of made me think, like...
Well, he didn't say he was reincarnated, did he?
Nah, he, like, just embodied the spirit type thing.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, I guess that's possible.
Yeah. You believe in reincarnation?
I'm not gonna go there.
Aww.
We already said our pieces.
Next time on the Infusion Breakdown Show, does Desmond believe in the reincarnation? Well, what do you guys think, though? Well, we're gonna see you guys next time, though. Okay.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to sign a new contract. Messing with you.
Get all the money. What you
my wage demands are about to get outrageous.
Welcome to the show. Go and take a seat. Let's talk about the world while taking a sip of tea. A bunch of brothers come together. That's something we love to see. The company can't get no better. We come from running the streets, but we here now. The vibes all good. We survived. We gon' try and show the world inside the minds of some visionary brothers. We only got each other. We don't support each other. Ain't nobody gonna love us. We can talk about the violence, the silence, the Mayans, the stake that the minds and the science, defiance, living and dying and laughing and crying, pure bliss and heartache and quitting and trying. That's real from the heart, truth in the heart. So come up in the future, we just gotta play our part. Can we handle that? Let them tear us apart. Infusion Breakdown Show, go and talk about your thought.